other little kids.
Really?
Oh yeah, very, very. And that's the problem. A lot of those kids don't get it.
What do you mean?
He, first of all, like I don't know, month ago, whatever, he's talking to me about, the government and, the shot. But he's not just repeating what he hears. He actually puts his own thoughts into everything that he's listening to.
Yeah. He's got a really interesting thing where he, I think he really wants to have something to say because like me and my brother have had life experiences and obviously my mom's had life experiences. So we're always talking about stories and things. And like he hasn't had enough really life experiences to have stories. So he ends up coming up and like fabricating these really interesting stories. And you can tell that they're a lie, but it's like, how did you even come up with that?
You know what though? Paulo was like that.
Was he?
The more they told him he was too slow, he couldn't do this and that, he'll come up with stories.
Yeah.
And there's people like, oh, that's not right. I go, you know what though? That's what's kept him going.
Right.
That's, other kids were making things. And he had, hey, that coach talked to me. And I'm like, I was right there. That never happened. But in his head,
Exactly, yeah.
And it was like, okay.
Yeah.
So there's nothing, all of them, Cristiano, since he was in pre-K, the teacher would be like, before she was done with an question, he was like this. He had no idea what they were. And most of the time he was wrong, but he was like,
ready to answer it.
And like I said, that's where that intuitive and imaginative mind that Lachlan has, because like the other kids he's just and kind of like even when that mind quiets down a little bit, he takes over the game.
Yeah.
And then he goes back to analyzing or to say, and then but it's very interesting. The more he's been coming, the more he's just
started to get relaxed into it.
Exactly, just doing it.
Yeah, he definitely seems like he's just not like feeling the game. He's always thinking.
He's always thinking.
Just feeling.
But that's because when we talk about it, especially right now, through all of this, we spend so much time, different seminars, different things, and it's all about, about that connection, the feeling with the thinking, because we all talk about feeling it, but it's, and so the thinking and will come together with the feeling, and it will just,
right,
because that's the thing. All these other kids, they try hard, they work hard, but there's no thinking to it, and therefore, it's hard for them to feel. Like I said, for him, because he'll tell me stories about your dad, he'll tell me stories about you, about Brendan, soccer, all soccer related.
Yeah.
And then you can see that he's putting those stories together into what he's looking to do.
Right.
And it's very, very, all the kids talk about Ronaldo, he talks about the three of you. Those are his soccer stories, and it's great.
Yeah.
Because it's personal, he can actually relate. While the other ones, which is and that's really what is different, for them.
Right.
Because, and I said that all the time. You can have those, but they're not there. But when you actually, like I was lucky. I grew up in a small country, but 3 times a week from 4 years old to I don't remember. I was at the stadium. And at that time, it was actually pretty good soccer. We were the second highest paid besides Mexico. So there was good soccer there. That was before those guys were going to Europe. Now even the third tier goes to Europe from Brazil, Argentina. But, so I was there. So you got to enjoy, get the atmosphere, see everything, listen to what the yelling of the fans and whatever. And then we'll go down to the bottom area and play whoever kids were there, play some soccer. But when you just watch, so you had relationships. You had a person you were watching.
It's more tangible.
My dad playing with all the ex-professionals, playing futsal. I was hoping that the goalkeeper will be sick or hurt, so I got a chance to play.
Yeah.
But so I see that when kids actually tell me about someone they have a relationship with, the difference in their development compared to somebody that's just watching.
Right.
And just, especially in the world we live in. Because a lot of people say, oh, but that's Ronaldo, that's Messi. You're never going to be like that. Or even if they don't tell you that, they make you feel like it's not going to happen.
Right.
But when you're talking about this brother, sister, dad, uncle, friend, whatever, you're like,
yeah, these are more.
There's more, you just, everything.
Yeah.
The way they dress, the way they, it's just, so.
So was that how it was when, like, obviously you were talking about how when you were a kid, it was like more tangible, like it was right there. So it was.
It was.
And this is in Guatemala, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the soccer culture was really big there when you were a kid?
It was just huge. I mean, it was, it was my dream to sign. Then later on, when I signed for that team, it was like it's a big deal, But I mean, like I said, we ignore everything else that was going on socially, politically, and everything because I was like, but I could see it.
Yeah.
I mean, guys that later on were big time coaches in Argentina, were big time players in the 70s, early 70s in Guatemala, played for national teams, they were there, things. So you had those things. I grew up reading the magazine El Gráfico, which is like a Sports Illustrated, was 90% soccer. But it's mostly Argentina with a few. So through that, there was, they played rugby. There was a guy on the Formula One. There's Guillermo Vilas, tennis player. So I almost ignored the history of my country athletically because I grew up in the history of Argentina.
Oh,
but it was, and then a lot of those players that I was reading, they were coming over and play over here, and it was, because like I said, Guatemala paid well. The private industry in Guatemala is very wealthy.
Oh, really?
Even to this, I mean, the biggest problem in Guatemala, there's no middle class. So you really drop.
So there's like a really high
level. There's a little bit middle, upper class now, but then it drops.
Interesting.
It drops. So that's really what you see. But the private industry, it's ridiculous. It's all family legacies. Supermarket owners, beer. All of these are the families from many years ago who had all the ranches and whatever. So sold their land to these.
Yeah.
Things like that. So anyway, so therefore there was a lot of money to bring in the players, to bring in coaches.
So the culture there was about soccer. So all of the big high level, high rollers were interested in investing in soccer.
It's the politics killed it, and then the biggest problem Guatemala had for the last 10 years, they've been suspended because of the president, just getting involved with that CONCACAF and FIFA. So it's just, they were building again, and then just went down. So now they're trying to build it again, but it takes. The money is there, but they're not as willing to.
Right.
The professional team I played for the owner was crazy. He helped Israel, so the Jewish people would pretty much give him almost every single a penny per person. So he was making without having to do anything. He was making extra money. Long story short, he stole money from the government. I mean, he was in the government, so they stole money. So he wasn't able to live in Guatemala anymore. He was in Venezuela because there's no problem there. He had horses, but he owned the team, so he will come back every once in a while.
Right.
And just my good friend, that was his grandpa, so he had little 5v5 tournaments at his house, and also you see the grandpa in there, how's he here? But I'm saying these are the type of people that invested in it, kind of like, in a way, I guess, them like the mafia type of thing.
Right.
These people made lots of money through illegal activities and whichever. I mean, the more money they had, the more money they wanted. So it was, but that's the money that was invested into.
Seems to always be how it is. Like the more money you get, the more you want more money.
Yes.
I don't know how you get out of that cycle.
It's because
you want a mindset to be successful. Like, or at least I think that like you want to have that mindset to be successful. But once you like get going on that path, that mindset just keeps growing, I guess.
That's funny. I was just reading about that. Kid gave me this great book, and it's pretty much about ego.
Yeah.
And he talks about even passion and all of what we confuse as it's pretty much just ego driven.
Yeah.
Right. So that's so when you're able to start understanding that and say, okay, I have all of this, but how's my relationship with my family? How do people see me? How do just all of those type of things.
Yeah, I've thought about that a lot. Even like I've had people around me like tell me that like not to get lost if I like get really successful. And I think about that a lot because I'm really close with my family now. Mm-hmm. And like, I don't want to ever be that like absent father type figure that is like doing business when the kid is playing soccer rather than being at the game,
It's finding that balance. I mean, you need to do what you need to do to provide for your family, what have you, but being able to understand that how much wealth there is in that spending that time with the family.
Oh yeah.
I mean, sure, we saw it after not working at UNM, trying to recreate what have you. And but they were like, you know what? We're giving time to our kids now. We're spending all this time with these college kids. 1 out of 5 cared, their family, but the other 4, they're, look at right now, you're no longer there. Somebody else is there. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But your kids, and they happen to love what you do. So why not give them? Because we were talking about, okay, let's say we coach in college. Could we travel with Cristiano? Could we travel with Paolo? Could we, no, we would have been coaching everybody else but them.
Right.
Spending, not like I ever wanted to coach my kids. I always wish there was someone else.
Yeah.
But at the same time, being here, there was no options. So you just like, we have to do it.
Yeah.
So
it is. Yeah. There's, like we were talking about earlier, that like tangible player or like team that like you can go and watch and like envision yourself playing as. Like you had the professional team in Guatemala that you were like, oh, I want to go to that level. In New Mexico, there's never really been, like when I was younger, it was the UNM soccer program. Like we would go to the games and there would be the big crowds and you'd be like all excited to like maybe one day play there. And then now I guess it's United, but there's very few areas where you can actually like train to like get to those levels in New Mexico.
Yes. I mean, that's, both Kid and I, luckily, because of what we do, we develop a strong relationship with them. We went to almost every practice that we could, and we were there a lot for those same reasons. Not to, it's just, if anything, to have that path. See, okay, this is what you're looking for. So if we ever have a chance of getting a player this way, well, the other ones were on the phone and trying to, your friend, we were actually there watching, learning, growing for our own personal self, for our personal growth, for the club, for our, but it was like, I go, great. We don't need to go and spend money that the club doesn't have and traveling to seminars or wherever. Right. We have it here. Yeah, it's not Barcelona, Real Madrid, but you know what, though? They're learning from them and it's professional. It is, I equated to, it was the equivalent of me growing up back in the day. And we even see it right now, it's just the little ones with this whole academy they're doing. Now they're seeing, oh, I know this player, I know that player. So for them, it started to become a little more real, instead of just, okay, the professional team is there. Every once in a while, we'll get a player to come and do a session or what have you. But like I said, there's no link. There's no.
Yeah, it just feels separated. And
well, for me, the way you got to understand what they're looking for, what are they doing, and try to work within your parameters, but try to work, kind of like, I want to help these kids go here, and, we're really in our group, we're talking about maybe some of the Cristianos group, the little ones for sure, but it's like with this path, eventually to the point, like you say, okay, my more mature players, if they have something of those ages, send them there.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, oh, it's about me. That should be everybody's goal, right? You get them, boom, and then you start again and do it again and again and again, and continue working with those other ones because you know how it is. I mean, Europe is smarter than us in that sense. They sort of try to hear where there might be a kid because you're 15, he's 15, but if one is not mature physically, they see something, let you play lower,
right?
So you can still have success.
Right.
Because 3-4 years now, those guys are going to be ahead of those guys that were,
Yeah.
It's, so.
Yeah, I feel like the soccer system in the U.S. is so broken. I don't know how you even go about fixing it.
Well, I'll tell you, having spent time with the Austin FC group, they're doing it the right way. And there's a few other groups, like their staff is complete. The main guy is an American guy, went to Berkeley, played a little bit in the MLS, young guys. He seems like a great guy. He seems really, but they brought, the technical director is the guy that was with Villarreal, with Valencia. He was pretty much in charge of the development of David Silva, Navas, all those players, that we see. Then he went to Qatar, the Aspire Academy, hired for 10 years. So pretty much his contract was done. So he's been here now a year and a half.
Dang.
And therefore he brought all his coaches, but not necessarily from, he brought coaches that were already here, that were with him, but one was at DC United, people that understood also what the market, the world, the way it was done here,
right? But
with their philosophy, with their mentality, and actually there's a great little thing on YouTube about the technical director and the general manager talking, and they're talking about that, how if you tell me this is the best player, the U13, so we go. Because in our head, okay, best player, why? Biggest guy? Strongest guy? Not to say that if there's something good about that big, strong, that we're not going to keep an eye on that
Right.
kid. But many times, when, especially in this country, when you talk about the best player in this age, it's because they're the physically most gifted players of that time.
That's how I was.
You know, but in my, that's like I said, that's why it's great. Let's work with that kid because there is something there, obviously.
Yeah.
But the problem here is you're successful because of what you're doing physically. People ignore and they don't help you with the other areas.
Right.
And the moment you're not able to physically continue to, you know, push your way around to say something, you know, you're like, I didn't gain these other tools. And that's really where, you know, for us as coaches, and that's what I love listening to them, is like, hey, I'm looking for the smart player. I'm looking for someone that I can see something, some spark, some value.
Right.
You know, most likely it's not going to be the biggest guy because that's how they haven't had to solve problems.
Yeah. It's kind of like the, like a buffalo or what are those ones called in like Montana? They're giant animals, but they don't think.
They don't think.
Because they can just smash everything. They don't have to be like smart. They can just like run things over. And that's kind of how I was. I didn't ever think about like the technical side. I was just like faster and angrier than everybody else.
But again, that's great, right?
Yeah.
But you work with that.
Right.
I mean, you're already getting, we're all, I mean, you know, we spend hours with strength coaches, speed coach nowadays, all these things, because that's what most people are lacking. But if you already have someone that has that, give them the other tools, because then really what happens is even the other ones might catch up a little bit physically, but you have so many more layers to your, you know, more tools.
Yeah, I guess a lot of the current U.S. coaches are very short-term thinking. It's like just about winning the next game rather than like creating a lifelong player.
I mean, I list, you know, New Mexico, right? I mean, it's when a player happens to go places or something, it is so much about them. Oh, they were with us since they were little, you know, and it's like, and that's all they care about. They're just seeing, you know, I mean, they bring Sergio Rivas back. I always said Sergio Rivas has all the tools, but for all the tools that he had, that kid should have gone straight up to the highest level. But because he was never put in those environments, he was just, at a certain point, he became better than others, and they were happy with that. He was helping them win state championships or whatever.
Yeah, I was on that team.
There you go.
He was
Instead of
amazing.
saying, you know what, you need to move up.
Yeah.
You need to go and play a couple years up. Get your butt kicked a little bit. You know, learn to solve problems. Okay, you have to be able to assess and say, okay, he's become above this group. Nothing wrong. Let's keep working with the other ones, but help him get there. But like I said, here it's about me. It's about how do I pat myself on the back because of this group of players. One, you know, just you know,
right.
And that's and it's difficult to change because the culture of the people, the parents, everyone in, you know, because the parents are the ones in charge, right? They pay the bills, so therefore, you know, they want you to keep winning those things, you know, instead of saying, oh no, if you take it, how come? Because then they'll take you or whoever else to other teams because you no longer have that actually, you know. So it's because the culture is not set from the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, if you're saying we're gonna develop. And I just had a conversation with a parent. Really, our job, and I've been guilty of it, you know, and we grow and we learn, but it's when a younger player is not getting it done, I'm not going to replace that kid. I am at fault. It's like a teacher. You are at fault. Unless the kid doesn't care, that's a different story. But if the kid cares, you have to keep working with them because we don't know what's going to happen with a 7, 8, 9-year-old when they're 15, 16.
Right.
You know, but you know, many times we're like, ooh, somebody else is, you know, this kid is better. Let's guest player, let's play. You know, again, the short term instead of the, you know, the long term.
Right.
You know, so it's.
Yeah, that's difficult to try and fight against, I guess. I mean, you guys are watching. I've been watching you guys train, obviously, for years now, and training Brendan and stuff. And you guys are really focused on like the development of players more than anybody I have like come across, which is fun to see. Like Brendan's technical skills got ahead of mine when I mean, he's 7 years younger than me. And like, I wasn't able to keep up with his technical skills because he was training with you guys so much. And you guys like inspired a love for the game more than anyone I'd ever seen. Like those kids would just train after the training and you guys would go like 6-7 days a week and they just wouldn't stop. like after the training, they would play for like another hour. And that was like every day when you guys were already going like 6 days a week. And it's hard for me to understand how you got players to that level of like love.
It's and that's what it's all about. I mean, that's the thing here. Every's so structured. But the federation says an hour and a half of training. And I'm fine. The main training, sure, you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to. So the main training is X, Y amount of time. But it's all those other things. And I think for us, it's about, we'll play on the street, we'll play in the cement, So the actual training was a small period of time, but it was just the rest. I mean, go back to the Johan Cruyff who used to say, okay, I trained 2-3 times a week when I was little with my team. But the rest of the time, even the days I trained, I was in the street playing with the other guys for hours on end.
Right.
So we forget that. I mean, we want to put everything this. And I said, is that how we're going to develop? That's what you're saying? Or is that because therefore you can have more teams, make more money,
right.
And just, and what we were lucky, we were able to create an environment that even if we had multiple teams, we can somehow keep the other group that wanted to keep training and playing with this group. We're able to adjust our sessions or everything so that, people want to stay longer, let them be.
Right.
And it's, actually last year I had a conversation with the group of, the Kaya group now, because I will ask them to come days that they didn't train. Come, not mandatory, coming over. I'm going to be working with the older group, but feel free, do rondos, do what I wanted them just to be with the kids, with the environment. And it was the best thing. I mean, like you said, that's how we were, by trying to combine those
one
things.
sec. All right. Sorry, my dog was barking. I don't even remember where we were, but...
No, we were just talking about the creating the environment where the kids want to be there, no matter, like you said, whether you're training all these hours, all these days, but you want more. And for us, that's really, somebody said it perfectly. Like we were saying earlier, passion. Many times it's really pretty much just ego. But when you combine passion and love, and that's where, like, that mixture, it's, like people say, you can fall out of love. Well, same thing. Passion can be just about you.
Yeah.
But I think when you combine those two, and for our groups, that's always been interesting because we haven't been the team that wins everything because of the mixture of ages, everything that we've always had. No, I mean, but it's been like, hey, we want more. And then all of a sudden you get a result and you're like, you feel, excited in many ways because your hard work is shown. But real for us is like, are you developing? Are you becoming? And for us, development, it's been always about finding that love, like I said, that combination of, do you love it where you want to come back and keep working on it?
Yeah.
And that's really what we always wanted to do. I even felt like, I used to tell kids this all the time. I always felt, like boxed a little bit coaching in the college environment. The amount of hours, it became a business. Kids were not there for love. There's money. They came to you because you probably were the best offer compared to other schools.
Yeah.
Things like that. So and there was kids that loved it and want to be there, but overall, it wasn't always about that.
Right. Yeah, I saw that a lot being in college. Like I was there. I'd never had scholarship for soccer. Luckily, I did pretty well with academics, so I got some scholarship for academics. But I never asked for money for soccer. And like I was there because of the team. Like I loved the environment and I really enjoyed playing. I didn't really like soccer until like I got to college, honestly. Growing up, it was like always a battle for me to go to training and stuff, and I didn't really enjoy going to training. But once I got to college, it like blossomed into something different. But I saw like those guys who were here just because it was the best offers. And a lot of that was like people from like internationals, people from outside the country. They're looking for an opportunity to play in America while also getting their education. And for them, oftentimes it was about the money rather than like our team. But there were also internationals that were the opposite of that. So it is hard to tell. And there were also a lot of Americans that were like that, just looking for the best offer. But yeah, I don't know how you like find that area where it's like passion, but like, because like you said, passion can definitely like fade in and fade out, and you're not always super passionate about something. Like, cause I wasn't passionate about it until college, and that like pushed me to find passion in it. I guess I was like, I'm here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like and that's sad because like you had the tools, obviously, you were able to take your game to the next level, the collegiate levels, So it's really, again, that's when us as coaches, that's more of a failure on us as coaches than the actual player, because if you didn't find that passion, luckily you stayed with it, which was great, so allow you to find that passion, find that love for it, but it's where we have to be able to do a better job of helping these young players find that passion earlier and then continue to build upon them.
Yeah.
And I think, again, there's a lot of, like you're saying, coaches, it's about winning, parents is about winning, or sometimes parents like, oh, why are you doing it? You're not really going to achieve much out of it. When we can just let the kid be, it's kind of like give him a piece of paper, give him the crayons, let him color, let him do whatever, and they get done with that, give him more. Maybe they're Picasso, maybe they're not, but they're having fun.
Right.
The moment they don't have fun and they want something else, absolutely, But if you see that they're enjoying it and going, we continue giving them the tools but we just have to, we have to be able to find a better way to help the younger kids find that passion and then grow from that. Mm-hmm. And it's, again, somebody else, we've been spending a lot of time with, his name is Todd Bean from the Tova Academy in Barcelona. The guy is just, and it's nice to see here's an American coach, player, college athlete living in Spain now, mixing the European ways with the American ways. And it's just, we as coaches, we're developing children.
Right.
And the problem is how many of us really care about that. I'm lucky having my own kids and whatever, so we spend a lot of time trying to become better understanding the kids that we have in front of us and trying to educate them the best way possible, because the soccer is so small. Mm-hmm. Like you're saying, I think if anybody says, what have you done? I think the area that I can say we have a little success is being able to understand them. Not everyone, because we're not perfect, but where these kids want to come back and want to keep doing it, mm-hmm. And that's, but it's been more about trying to understand them instead of trying to feed them X's and O's and this is how you play the game, or,
right.
But just, I think when we develop that relationship, and I think in that I got to give it to coaching women. I do have, because one thing with women is, if you don't gain their respect, nothing matters. Doesn't matter how much you know, you have to gain their respect. If they respect you, then they'll be able to listen. And they can do things that, maybe physically people didn't think they could.
Right.
And I was lucky to spend so many years coaching women from club, high school to college, because it helped me. And it's helped me more, even so now that I'm spending all my time with these younger players, right. Be able to understand, okay, the first thing I got to do no matter what is gain their respect in order to open up, And when I see somebody's looking for my attention, I have to be able to stop what I'm doing to try to give them that attention.
Right.
Because that's how you lose them as well. After a while, it's like, Cristiano, perfect example, last year in school, when they started with the online. They're not asking me. I'm pressing my button that says raise the hand, and they're not looking at me. So you could see after a while he was everywhere but there.
Yeah.
And like I said, so in that sense, I keep learning. Mm-hmm. I'm watching him taking his classes at home, and I'm learning the interactions just with him. I go, yep, I was guilty of that as well. So that's what I'm saying. These kids teach us so much.
Yeah, I haven't thought about it in that way. It's cool that there is someone thinking about it in that way.
Like I was saying to you when I got here, I'm gathering my strength to go and work with the little ones, because I told kid, that's exhausting when I'm done. And it's not a long period of time, but I am exhausted, but it's fun. And I'm exhausted because I want to. I could just let them be. Or like I said, if I were just to teach them skill like we used to before, that would be easier. Mm-hmm. It's a repetition, do this. Sure, they might go right when you ask them to go left, but as we're trying to really get them to understand the game, to learn through playing, mm-hmm. That's what, it's tiring, but it's so much fun to see when they're starting to
Really catch on.
catch on and doing it and having success because of it.
Yeah.
It is enjoyable.
Yeah. What kind of training did you have at like the younger kids' age?
You know what? I mean, I remember here I was 8 is probably the first time I remember being in a serious team, and we're playing U12. I was the only group around, and it was an ex-professional player, very good friends with my dad, and but it was only on Saturdays. He will come up, he will drive around the houses picking us up in his little VW van, and he'll pick us up, take us to practice. During the week, he was also in the street playing with the different kids. I was lucky to have a big backyard, so whenever my parents got mad, grandma got mad, I would bring him inside the house. We kept playing in there. But it wasn't, it was my second year with that same team. We were able to go and then start training twice a week on the Saturdays. It was the Queen Park Rangers. I remember that was I said, the coach loved soccer, so he knew the teams from Europe,
right.
and but that was her name, and but it wasn't anything like it is now.
Right.
It was, but he was teaching us by what he learned from being a player, and it was more us trying to repeat what we seen going to games through that week, than anything else. And then there was a value to that.
Right.
There was a value to that. But it was street soccer with a little bit of direction.
Interesting.
That's then later, sixth grade, in our country, it's school soccer. That's the highest level.
Oh, okay.
So luckily for me, I was able to get into the Jesuit school in sixth grade, and our schools there go from pre-K until your senior year.
Yeah.
So I was in different schools.
At the same school?
Yeah, the same school.
Oh, wow.
So sixth grade, I was able to go to this school. And I remember when I went on at the end of my fifth grade, I went to take the test to get into the school. I was like, whatever. I didn't really know what it was all about. But then at lunch, I went over by the cafeteria to see overseas the stadium. I'm like, okay.
Right.
Now I better go and do well on the second part of the test because I want to come here.
Right.
But I had no idea. But there was good academics. Everything was. I wanted. When I saw that field, I want to play there.
Right.
So that was. We were very fortunate. We had a great coach, and that was every day. We train every day, and it was exactly what we're saying. Our school went all the way into 115. We started earlier, and then we started training. We had 3 divisions. Pretty much, let's say 6th, 7th graders, 8, 9, and then the oldest group. And so we will train. The youngest will train first, then the other groups. But since the bus didn't, to go home, we took a bus, and it was at the end of the day, 5 o'clock. I will stay there. And I will go and work with the ball, hoping that the coach would let me train with the second, the middle age group,
right?
And little by little he let me do. We had this big stands. I would be hitting balls on the wall, and then a couple of teams will follow, and we start doing it. And little by little they let us. So we actually started playing on the second team a year earlier than most of the other players. But it was, it was the same coach. It was the same coach that coached all 3 teams. Oh, and actually our school even had a professional team in the 3rd division. It was, it was professional because the division was professional, but it was more, alumni, that played because they loved it. I mean, They all had careers and things, but it was a great environment. It was, it really allowed us to transfer what we were learning. A lot of our players went on to play professionally, and in 7th grade, we had a priest that would take over a grade for the next 5 years. And luckily for us, the one priest that we had, he was the athletic director. And the class that he had just graduated had the player that had the most success for the school, who played professionally, played for the national team. So I got to, hang around with him and spend a lot of time with him. And that really helped me. Because our country, Guatemala, when I made the national team, for example, they were training at 11 a.m. I was the only kid going to school. The rest of the kids didn't go to school.
How old were you when you made the national team?
I was first 16. We was the U19 at that time.
Oh, wow.
But I never forget this. If it wasn't for that priest, my parents didn't even know. My parents said, "You're not training. It's 11 a.m. You're in the middle class."
Right.
So he'll let me go. He even gave me change to get the 3 buses to make it. My first ever practice, I'll never forget. I got to practice. We had a uniform. I'm running with my, and I get there, and the coach from the senior team looks at me. "What are you doing?" "Getting ready for practice." "It's 11:01. Practice already started." But I'm coming from school, the typical excuse that
Right.
hey, it's 11:01. I don't care.
Yeah.
I sat there, watched the whole practice, and I'm thinking, number one, I'm mad that I can't train. Two, I got to get back to school. Three, my parents are going to find out I left school, and will I ever get to train?
Right.
And luckily they understood that I was going to school, so they made some, they started training earlier, and things like that. But it was, again, I was the only one going to school from that whole group. So it was a different world, completely different people, completely different.
Were most of them older?
Well, I was younger for that group. Most of them were 18, 17. But it was, again, soccer.
It was more soccer culture.
Soccer
than
culture.
School.
Exactly. You go to school to become a professional. You don't think of,
Right.
So like I said, we had players go, but from all of them, there's this one guy, and he actually ended up giving up. He could have gone and played professional for many years, but, family business, different things. It's just, it's, you will not become rich playing in our country's, soccer. You did it because you loved it.
Right.
But at that, for me, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
It's.
When did you decide that you were going to be a goalie?
I always loved it. Always liked it. Same thing going back to before reading those El Gráfico magazines. My favorite keeper was the Argentinian keeper for the '78 World Cup. And he would wear a shirt with a little collar coming. So I would go up to my dad's room, take his polos and his best sweaters and dive around. So I would dive around all the time. I love playing on the field, but I'll dive around. So maybe a combination of my skill level was very good, but maybe I didn't have the pace of some of the other players.
Right.
And I loved the goal. And because my dad told the coach in 6th grade, Jorge can play goalkeeper too. And they needed a goal. So they put me in, but I was still doing both. And finally the coach said, you have the tools. Get it done.
Yeah.
So that's, I've said middle of 6th grade is when I really made that transition, and just, it really, I had fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Goalkeepers, there's a different mindset when it comes to a goalkeeper. It's strange. Every goalkeeper that I've met is a little bit weird.
Absolutely. You have to be, one of my favorite stories from our goalkeeper that I grew up watching, he was intense. The fans will yell at him. He yelled back. One day playing, his team went to play in a little friendly game to a small division. So the stadiums were smaller, so just a little fence. So as he's yelling at the fans, the ball goes over, jumps over the fence to grab the ball. No problem, throws the ball back, jumps over. His shoelaces get caught. So he's upside down on the fence.
Oh, shit.
All these fans that he had been yelling back and forth and everything, are coming after him.
Oh, that's
But, and I used to love these guys. I was like, I used to thought that was pretty cool. And everyone said, that's not cool.
Yeah.
It could have been killed.
Yeah.
But yes, goalkeeping it is different. And as a matter of fact, when I work with young kids that want to be goalkeepers, and I don't see anything different about them, it's kind of like, do you really want to do this?
Right.
Do you really understand what this is? What this takes?
There really is something that visual that you can tell that this, and physical, that this person's a little bit different and wants to be in the goal, and is not worried about putting their body on the line as much.
Exactly. And let's face it, you spend a lot of the time by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking to yourself.
Yeah. My best friend in Durango is a goalkeeper for the men's team. And he always equates it to being a different sport, kind of.
Yeah.
When you're the goalkeeper, it's kind of a different world. You're separated from all the players. You're the only person that gets to use your hands. It's just a different, you've got an 18-yard sprint, and that's the whole sprint that you'll do. And it's just soccer, but tweaked a little bit in that box. And there's a totally different mindset when you're in that box.
No, it is. You're right. Your training is completely different. That's why Neuer, the German keeper, became such a wow sensation, because he play off his line. He'll come out and kind of like the old sweeper type of situation. You come and clear balls. And that's, for me, that's how I played, but for a lot of the people now, a goalkeeper, you're not supposed to do that.
Right.
And many, in fact too, many coaches will not even include the goalkeepers into their training, which is wrong, because especially now, you got to use your feet and everything. But that is, it's such a different position. The modern game has a lot of, you see now, Liverpool, Man City with Brazilian goalkeepers, things that never happened before because the need to be able to play with your feet, see the game as a field player. So that's really, when you get a goalkeeper that can understand the game as a field player would, you can have much more success.
Right.
Regardless of your physical attributes, it's one of the reasons the United States had so many great goalkeepers because goalkeeping is about physical attributes. So we've had great athletes, from the Casey Kellers to the what's his name, Tim Howard, who's a big time basketball player. So you have this combination of things, but then at the same time, if you can add some field smarts, then you really, the kid that's playing right now for Man City, the backup keepers, I think it's Zach Steffen.
Yeah.
American kid. He sees the game differently because he was also a very good field player.
Right. Yeah, that's my favorite thing. Like Peter, the goalkeeper for Fort Lewis, he knows the game really, really well, and he's very commanding. He tells everybody where to be. That's like my favorite thing as a center back, because I'm trying to talk to everybody in front of me. If I have someone behind me that's telling me where I need to be, it's one less thing that I have to think about. It makes it makes the game a lot easier.
Yes. No, as a goalkeeper, you have to be a coach in the field. You like I say, you can either spend the entire time talking to yourself, or you spend the entire time looking, reading, seeing, understanding what goes on. There's a reason why goalkeepers can play longer. If you really, they can physically stay, play. Buffon right now is 42 years old.
Right.
I just saw a keeper on the third division playing Real Madrid, 41 years old, and he was a cat. That guy was, so if you can keep yourself physically fit, which nowadays everything is better and different than it used to be, but if you're always coaching, that's what a good goalkeeper is all about.
Yeah.
I always tell the kids, everything I'm just said to this defender, that's you. That's what you need to be talking to them. Right. I don't need to be heard anymore. You guys need to, with the college teams, I would spend time sitting down with the goalkeepers while we train the defenders so they understood that and say, okay, now it's up to you. You guys need to relate. You run this session now.
Yeah, it's important to include those goalkeepers into the defensive.
It is, like you said. Here you are as a defender. You're gonna play with more confidence because you have somebody behind that's feeling it, that's understanding. So if you're not perfect, they're there for you.
Right.
So it goes back to teaching the game. Not just you're a goalkeeper, you can use your hands, stay on the side, and go and train against the wall. If you have a goalkeeper coach, let them work with them. You still got to include, and even for the relationships, the locker room is so important.
Yeah.
Even though the young kids don't have locker rooms per se, it's all of that time they're not training.
Right.
It's critical. They don't need to be best friends, but they need to have some sort of relationship.
It's usually where you find your friends, though. Especially most of my friends, pretty much all of my friends have come from soccer.
Yes.
Because you can relate so much to the training, the putting in the hours, that whole side. It connects you.
Connects you. It's important. Kids always said, your success has a lot to do with the people you surround yourself with. People with the same drive, the same likes. It really is. And when we coached at USC, for example, it was easier for athletes to be motivated because you had a ridiculous amount of coaches or athletes that were competing for Olympics, training for. So it wasn't just about the college, about competing against the next game. They had other plans. So it was, You're talking about some of the best athletes in the world. So it was like, I remember as a coach, I trained the best I ever did when I was working there.
Yeah.
When we came here, we had to create that environment. That was not the norm. That was not something that was, we were lucky with the strengths that we had, and he's from here and from New Mexico, and this guy's one of the best, but he had experience with the Olympic team, so he was able to bring that into it. But it was, we had to create that environment. And then at the end we did. We were able to, to create. But that's really, when we see, that's going back to what you were saying earlier about the kids wanting to stay later. For us, that's really been our number one goal. Putting in there what these kids want to do it. Even right now with the limitations that we have, I laugh at these little kids. I took their lights, because when I'm done with them and I got to move on to the next group, I let them stay and play. Right. But yesterday I didn't even pay attention and I turned the light towards the other area. So that little dirt field didn't have any lights, but I heard all this giggling. All of a sudden, they're playing hide and go seek. They're, and like you said, here they are. They're becoming great friends, and for them, is in the world that we live in right now, is even more important because everybody's in their own bubbles.
Yep.
You go and they don't even go to school. So maybe that two families that live close, they spend time together. So they're not picking up or driving other kids, just them. So, but that time, those kids are together. Mm-hmm. Maybe when we're training, they're fighting because they want to win or whatever. But when that is done, they're able to be kids, and just have fun. And we're like, absolutely,
they leave the game
fun
on the field.
Yeah. Just be a kid. Just be, because this is going to help us, developing that.
Yeah,
it's the culture. The overall culture is what's important. And again, going back to Tovo and Todd Bean, he talks so much about that. What is your culture?
Yeah.
What is, does your club have a culture? Mm-hmm. Or it's all about the individual? It's all about, and that for me, that's one thing that we loved about the Pats. There is a culture. It's unfortunate that we're so far away from the rest of the group, but there's relationships. There's, we see patterns. Mm-hmm. In other clubs, you're part of certain organizations, but there's no relationships.
Right. That was something that I was a part of, trying to rebuild, was the culture at Fort Lewis, because we switched coaches my freshman year. And just that whole process of trying to figure out a culture, it just takes time. Mm-hmm. And it's brutal because you have to, especially when you're recruiting, you have to try and find these kids that are going to fit into the culture. And if they don't fit, it breaks it up.
Yeah.
It really ruins things.
Yes.
And then you see those kids that are kind of just jumping from culture to culture, and if you bring those kids in that aren't fitting into the culture, they're going to pull some of those other guys that really they're not really set on how they want it. Yeah. Yes. And it really divides a team. It can make things really, really bad.
No, I mean, that's a part I loved. The recruiting part of the college coaching, it's a lot of fun. If you do it right, if you're willing to put the time, because you're correct. I mean, you have a bigger name on your jersey. Sometimes, you're able to find a good player. But when you're in those other schools where you're trying to create things, it takes that time, and you have to be careful. And you make mistakes, but I mean, overall, trying to find that person, that athlete that is going to understand, forget about how great that person is as a player, but as a person. And like you're saying, if you have a certain culture, can they fit into this culture?
Right.
Because at that age, I mean, you just went through that. You're all over the place. It's supposed to be the best years of your life, right? But you are making decisions. What do you want to do? I mean, you've been thinking about, dreaming about doing this and that, but now you're really in the years where okay, whatever that is that I'm going to, from here, I got to go to the real world, That's why so many stayed in school and getting degree after degree because they're still confused, don't know. It's a lot easier, not easier, but I mean, being a professional student.
I was trying to figure that out because I still have 2 years of eligibility at the soccer level, and I was going to go back and keep going. And my mom she just wanted me to do what I wanted to do. And I got to the point where I'm it just doesn't make any sense for me anymore. It's time for me to move on to the real world and start. 'Cause I've always had aspirations in business and helping out the family businesses. And, it just, especially with all the COVID stuff going on, I didn't see a huge draw to soccer anymore. And I had also felt that soccer had kind of played its part in my life. Mm-hmm. It helped me get through hard times, and it just taught me a lot, but it was now it's time for me to go use what I learned in the real world. And that's something that I value a lot out of a coach, is knowing that soccer isn't everything. But it can teach you so much. Yeah. And that's what, my coach at Fort Lewis, he was I know soccer isn't your whole life, and it's not for everybody. And he's really focused on making sure that everyone's getting their academics straight. I'm pretty sure that the Fort Lewis men's team just got the highest GPA out of all the men's programs, the soccer team, which was like one of our goals from when I first got
Yeah.
there, and we finally achieved it, which is awesome. But like knowing that like you're building players for what they're going to do after soccer. Like you'll get a couple of players who are able to play at the next level, but the majority of your team isn't going to make it professional.
And even if whoever makes it, you're right. It's about that, them being successful away from the game. You're right. I mean, you're so right. I mean, we're lucky in this country that we can use soccer in so many different ways. Help through high school, get you into college. Forget even the professional level. Just there's so many other areas that this game. But like you're right. I think the biggest thing about anything that you do extra, but since soccer is what we do, it's about helping you grow, helping you understand the goods and the bads, and how do you survive. I mean, I think you're right. You are. I mean, you're an example. You're an example of character, and we talk about integrity all the time. And a lot of people integrity, but integrity really is doing what you say you're going to do. And that's you. You've been doing that. I mean, most college kids your age don't have to, they're not faced with decisions you've had to make in the last 2 years, and and even so, other people have said, "Oh, yes," but no, I still want to do this because this is what you had to say. I want to do this, but luckily I have these tools where I can come here and help myself, but while I'm helping my family and that, and it's, I mean, this country was built on that.
Yeah.
I think we've lost that. That's really, I agree. Back in the years where these families had to work together, or sleep in one or whatever, to create, and those families didn't see it. It was generations, 2-3 generations later, who were able to see the fruits that were there.
Yeah, we've really
lost that.
We've gotten to a point where you can see it much quicker.
Yeah.
And
somebody else going to give it to you.
And we've even lost it.
Yeah.
Even now, like you were saying back in the day, if you were planning something for your family's future, it was like your family's future, not your future.
Yes.
And now, like if you're planning something for your family's future, that can be 5-10 years down the line, and you can make your family successful.
Yeah.
Back in the day, it was decades.
No, it's like I said, this country was built from people from all over the place, for different situations. They were here, but they worked hard to, they did what they had to do to put food on the table, and then little by little able to do a little bit more and things, and it's, we've gotten to a point like, if I don't work, I get something. If I, anyway, I can gotta work.
Yeah,
but
no,
I
agree.
It's
we've created a really a culture of people who think that they deserve things, which I don't know. It's a really interesting, I don't know what the word is, but juxtaposition, because all these people are talking about how there's so many people suffering, but then they're also saying we deserve things. And it's like, you can't really, you can't talk out of both sides of your mouth. Like if you want something, you have to work for it. And if you want to give something to somebody, you're going to have to work extra hard to be able to give, there's, I was thinking about this recently because I've been doing the Dave Ramsey stuff, and I know you guys have been looking into that.
Oh yes.
But the giving side isn't something that I like. Well, it's something that I thought about, but not to the extent that he talks about it. Like I always thought about later on in the future when I'm successful, I'll be able to give something, but there's always something that you can give, and something that I can give right now is my time. And I have skills outside of my time that I can give to people as well. Like installing things or helping out with fencing or whatever, just simple things that can make a difference, even if it's a small one, you know what I mean? And just being able to find that is important, I think.
Well, I tell you, how many people just since the weekend have been closing that gate correctly and feel great. That it's so funny. There's a hole next to it, but they feel so safe. They feel it's just right. And like you said, that might seem like a simple thing, but it means a lot to us, obviously, and to everyone that's coming in. And you're right, though. It is. We can never forget, no matter where we are, about giving. Mm-hmm. I mean, even in different ways. Paolo said it great to us. I think it was Saturday when we had all those shoes lay out there. this is amazing.
Yeah.
This is great. I mean, just, you know how great we all feel that here's something that I use, whether I grew it fast or they're almost new, but I'm able to, there's, especially nowadays when you look at the price of all those things,
It's
and
crazy.
it's like to say, okay, maybe 2, 3, 4 people can use them. Great. That really makes it, it gives more value to that. But to see in the excitement of somebody else grabbing a pair of used shoes because they were worn by X, Y, or Z, and he goes, that's how you create a culture. That's how you create a club. Because I love it. He goes, we used to talk about, in soccer even, before, when you were in a youth academy, you were an apprentice.
Yep.
You had to sit down and get the mud off the shoes from the professional players. There's a great story. Alex Ferguson, the coach from the academy, tells us about this kid. Coach, this kid is ready, mature, whatever. He went to watch him practice. He goes, yeah, I like what he's doing soccer. Okay, what is his duty? His group is in charge of the toilets. Perfect. So he goes to this player and like, let's walk over. Go, where are you going? To the bathroom. Why to the bathroom? Yeah, you're in charge of the toilet. I want to see the toilets. So he looks at the toilets and they're not really clean. So this is your job and they're not done correctly. How can I trust you on the first team? And he's looking, but I'm good. Look, I'm the top scorer, goal scorer. I go, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. And those little stories, I think, again, we need more of that. We need more accountability. We see it right now, right? A kid that makes an academy or what have you, get new shoes, get this and that. But where's the accountability?
Yeah.
Where's, and those are the things that are important, in everything, because whether it's your job, do it right, and then also, what else are you doing outside?
Yeah. We had jobs at Fort Lewis for our team. I'm sure most colleges do, but because my freshman year, I was the only red shirt. And I was the only freshman that wasn't playing. He had recruited a lot of freshmen that were really good. And I was kind of the lower level of all of them. I was just kind of the workhorse. So I ended up doing most of the jobs by myself, not intentionally. Obviously, he didn't say these are all yours, but I was the only one willing to do it because I was at a level where I was like, if I ever want to do anything, I'm going to have to show them that I'm going to work, And so I was doing the balls, the pennies, the cones. I would bring out water. I was doing all that stuff. I was picking up the field. And after that year, it just stuck with me. I kept doing it. And even my senior year, I was the oldest guy on the team, and I'm still trying to help out wherever I can, picking up all the pennies, picking up all the balls, making sure everything's organized, because it's it just sticks with you. Mm-hmm. And when you see those people that understand that, you can tell that they're much more devoted to the program and to growth and stuff like that than people who are just there for kind of being cool.
No, it's critical, Again, both Kid and I, and for the love that we have for this game, we try to learn from everywhere else. And one of the groups we've spent a lot of time studying is the All Blacks, the New Zealand rugby team.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a great little book called Legacy. And they talk about actually a time in their in their process where they went down a little bit. They lost the culture. They lost, so they were. And the biggest thing is they had this in place and then they got rid of it, cleaning the sheds. They call it cleaning the sheds. And what it was is after every practice or game, the captains, so pretty much the most mature, the best paid players, the players, they were the ones cleaning the locker room, cleaning wherever they were at. So if they did it, everybody else will do. And that was, no matter what, rugby players will have beers after games, whatever. No, they will be the ones cleaning up. And in those years that they lost that, instead of having that, it was picking up rugby players of the bushes because they drank too much, things because they lost culture, they lost everything there. And the new coach that comes in the early 80s said, we got to go back to the old school. And the first thing he implemented was the cleaning the sheds. And the main thing about having the captains, the most successful players, do it, because if you see them doing it, right, everybody's going to do it.
Yeah.
Because here is mostly going to be the case of what you were saying. It's either being forced on the younger player, you're a freshman, you have to do it, or someone like you that say, hey, I'm a work, I like to work, so I'm going to give this here. And you're not doing it to look good for the coach. That's who you are. Mm-hmm. And as a coach said, that's the type of person I want.
Yeah.
Because I'm not telling him to do it. Nobody's for him, but he wants to do it.
It teaches you a lot.
It teaches you so much. I mean, it's again, that whole entitlement, and then it's we talked to Cristiano. Cristiano is, there's no hiding it. The kid is different. He's special. He has some tools. He's had opportunities. But the biggest thing is, this is great, buddy. That's all great. But really, you as a person was the most important. You have to be disciplined. You have to be willing to outwork everyone, because the skills come and go. Somebody, they might find someone, especially at the levels that you're going, where they can recruit all over the world.
Yeah.
But it's, don't just say, "Oh, look at me." And luckily for us, it's always been one, if anything, trying to bring the groups together. And sometimes they get upset with him because he's so intense in the game, but he's just competitive. He's trying to get everybody involved. But we always talk to him about those things. Hey, be the first one picking things up. Be the first one cleaning. Be the first one doing the other things that, we got him now a couple times a week to help us work, with us, with the little ones, just to, they like him, but for him to start understanding, giving back a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's important.
It is important, but it's also like the hardest thing to like teach someone. It's the work rate when you don't need it. Like there are times where people are just like special and they don't really have to work as hard, but to teach them that those times will come and go is just,
I mean, you go back in the days, like Michelangelo, all those guys, they were apprentices. What they were doing, they went, they're in Venice, they're in Florida, they're looking to be an apprentice of the Grand Master, But nowadays, people are not looking to be apprentices.
Right.
They want to be it. They want to be, they want to be the ones, And it's like I was saying to you earlier, I mean, here we've been coaching for so many years, and every single day you're learning more things. You never stop learning, and so no matter how gifted you are at something, there's so much more. It's every game might give you a different challenge. Are you equipped to deal with that challenge? How do you solve those problems?
Yeah, there's so many different facets to, especially like soccer. I mean, there's tons of sports that have a lot of facets, but soccer is very complex, and especially as a coach, you have to know so many different positions and what situations everyone needs to be in so many different situations. You really have to, like, new things will come up every game. And you're like, how do I want this player to like interact or move or do whatever in this situation that you may not have seen for a while,
No, I mean, I think, on the professional level, you have a person like Pep Guardiola. It's a perfect example. He was very successful, right? From playing, goes to coach the B team, wins, gets appointed to the Barcelona, best team ever. But he realized he wanted more challenges. And he came to the United States, spent a year watching the Jets, watching the Patriots, and then the basketball team, was the Knicks, right? And learning from them, understanding all the, So here's at that time, the most successful soccer coach in the world, but decided to take his year off, living in New York, and learning from all of those teams, learning from all those coaches, understanding what you're saying. We have to learn everything. But the Americans, look, they're smart. They have a offensive line coach, they have a defensive line, they can, So he started implementing, obviously soccer is going to be different. You're never going to have a coach for every position.
Right.
But you're going to have a few different people in charge of things. And he says to this day, he learned so much from that. And even right now, last year, his name is Juan Lillo, a coach that he had some success. He coached in Mexico, but his brain for soccer is unbelievable.
Yeah.
He was Pep Guardiola's mentor, and now he's assistant coach for him at Man City. Man City is starting to go up again, and you see him every once in a while. They show a picture of him sitting in the background, just watching. But so here's the best coach, or one of the best coaches in the world, still looking out for other ways to learn from other sports, from other people, and even bringing someone that can help him there, instead of saying, no, I'm this and that, I know it all. I can buy the best players in the world because I have the money. He's still in. So I said to people, if you have those guys there, sure, they're competitive, so they understand whatever is going to help in winning. But if they can continue learning, why can't we?
Yeah, it's just a mindset thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's so important to just understand that, like, Pep Guardiola is obviously just like, he has a love for learning. Like, especially if you're going to take time off to just go watch other sports and just try and learn from them. You have to have some just love for learning and the knowledge that you're always going to get better if you like believe that you don't know everything. Yeah. And that's just hard to come by, I feel like, today.
It is. I mean, it's so important. It's so important to have that open mindset of, I don't know everything, because again, but see, if we said that, right, we're doing this because we're good. Our ego's telling us how great we are, so now you're able to accept that I don't know everything. You might be right, I'm wrong.
Right.
And but again, you have to, it's not about right or wrong for me. It's like I was saying earlier, every kid is different. Mm-hmm. So what works for this one might not work for him. Personality, maturity levels, all of that. But how do you get the whole group to move forward? Yeah. How do so you have to be able to be prepared or as prepared as possible. And it's kind of like what we all did when we were learning a language. I used to carry a dictionary. So you didn't know a word or something, boom, had to go back and look it up. Jeez. And I think we should do those things when it comes to, because no matter what we're learning, whatever, there's always going to be a situation where like, gosh, this is different.
Yeah.
I'm not getting through with this kid no matter what I'm trying. And I think that's kind of like what Guardiola is doing, right? Okay, I bring in someone this guy's amazing. He hasn't had the success as himself as a coach, but he's great. So I'm bringing him. Who knows? I mean, I wish I would be inside his locker room to really know which type of players was he having trouble, what have you. And I think, but I give a lot of respect to someone like that. I have a lot of respect for someone like that is able to say, I can't get through to this one, so maybe this person can help me get here. And
did you watch that Amazon Prime documentary on?
Yes.
It's really good.
It's great. All of them. I mean, I have to give it to those guys. All of them. I mean, I love Marcelo Bielsa as well. So with Leeds United, so we watch. But the Guardiola one, it's just, and when you see the guy who takes care of the kids, the little boy. He's the game. He's the team. I mean, exactly. It's. I told someone, do you see how much TV time that guy had? And in this country, we look at a person like that, he's just in charge of the laundry or what have you.
Yeah.
But it's so much more than that.
Yeah, and all the guys loved him.
Oh, and we learned that firsthand at UNM coaching. Our best allies, the best were the ladies downstairs in the laundry room. They were wonderful. Yeah. We actually spent a lot, our locker room was right there. So we spent a lot of time. I mean, talk about true people.
Yeah.
People that really, like I say, you don't clean the laundry, you clean our souls. But again, so those, I love things like that where they allow you to get that little inside story to see.
So cool watching that.
And for me, I tell a lot of the kids, watch games, that's all great. But when you start watching those little things, that's when you really see. Mm-hmm. For me, it was everything. I remember as a player, I used to love to watch how they dress, how they, and then you try to do the same. And it
was interesting watching that because you saw the players, like even their mentalities. Like when you're on the field, you can see the players play, and like at the professional level, they're all so good that like it's hard to distinguish, really. But I remember, I forgot what the guy's name was, but he's the left back, I think, and he got hurt, and then he wasn't showing up to his rehab, and they were like getting into it with him. And you're like, oh man, like even at the professional level, there's people that just aren't fully with it. And they were like talking about like letting him go, or like, I don't remember exactly what they were talking about, but like it was really frustrating to the administration and to the team. And it kind of felt like he was letting people down because he wasn't taking care of himself like he needed to be. And maybe from his perspective, he was just thinking about like, oh, it's just me. That like I'm just trying to rehab myself, but when you're at that level, you're like there with the whole team, and they want you to come back so that you can play with them.
And getting injured can be a lonely world, but again, you have to be able to, it goes back to what we were saying earlier about the whole person. Many of those guys have more skill than others, and therefore that's why they are there. But with setbacks or such, they have a tough time. One of the biggest things that we always baffles how a professional player gets fined for being late for practice. How can you be late for practice?
Yeah.
That's what you do.
Right.
That's your job. That's, you guys, any of us tell us we're going to play for Tottenham or whatever, I drop everything else and you go
I'll
and
be
do
there
it.
an hour early.
Yeah.
Every day.
So you just, and then you see why certain players, the Dennis Bergkamps before, Ronaldo's, those guys continue. Because they're always there early. When they are done, they have their masseurs, they have their, it's just...
Yeah, they're there early and they're there late. They're the first
American
ones there.
football. The players like the Lewis, sitting down in his home theater watching game film over and on. They're inviting the other players in the defensive group to go and watch film with him. And the guys are like, I want to go and party. I'm a big time. I'm a celebrity.
Right.
But it's, those little things that allow people to stay longer, do more.
Yeah, really get to the elite levels.
It's sometimes you've had kids that didn't have too many struggles to make it, so they don't. I was better, faster, stronger than others. Got the skill easier than other people, and they never had any type of setbacks. And like I say, and that's what I saw. I'm really happy U.S. Soccer is no longer in charge of the academy in this country.
Yeah,
because that's what I was seeing when U.S. Soccer was. It was very, it was that type of thing. Oh, these kids are better, so therefore. But how many of those really? Marcelo Bielsa said it great. It is great to have a great academy, but the only measure of success for an academy is not how many players you send to the first team. How many players stay and are successful at that top level. That's when you start seeing the value of an academy. And many times it's not going to be with your team because you only need this or that, but do they go other places? Do they go? That's the value that you're going to put in. And here it was just, we have the best players, we have this and that, and then we get the case of Trinidad and Tobago. It rained, there's water on the track to get to the field, and the national team players don't want to cross because they're afraid of getting their shoes wet. And the next day they go and lose, don't make it to the World Cup. But
is that really what happened?
There's a video, they started by joking around, but really players, it's wet, it's not, what do we need to train? And it had rained like crazy, so there was water,
I remember watching that game.
Yeah, then the game the next day, here's Pulisic, the youngest guy, he was the only one really barking and trying, but a lot of these other players, like, by the time they started, it was like, it's too late. Here's Trinidad scores 2 amazing goals, but it's that same entitlement, I have the best. I'm the best. I'm playing for this group because I am the best, and they keep telling you that instead of keep challenging.
Right.
And now that they're away from that, I've seen a big change. Again, just the time we spend with the Austin FC group, no matter how good you are, it is a constant challenge.
That's
mental,
good.
physical, everything, and it's nice to see.
Yeah, that is refreshing. I feel.
'Cause, we have a lot of talent here.
Yeah,
we do.
I think that New Mexico is kind of untapped for their soccer potential. There's so many kids. I remember my age, we had tons of kids that were like really, really good. And then I remember watching, like, there's still like only a few kids, especially from my age group, that like really stayed with soccer, when there should have been way more. And it was just, like you said, that, like we talked about, the culture of soccer in New Mexico is just not there. Once you get to that college level, like, it's a struggle. Like, you have to get through that first year and understand that like things are different. And most kids weren't willing to do that. There were a few that were like for me, it was just like, I've committed to something and I'm going to see it through. And that's why it was hard for me to leave, for one, because I committed to the team. And I felt like I was kind of like letting them down, leaving. Yeah. But most people don't get to that point, I feel like.
No, like I said, I think it's been so much about winning state, winning this or that, instead of the truly development or giving them that passion and love for the game. The moment things are not happening, let's find another player. It's the one area I'm very excited with in New Mexico United, starting with their academy. Number one, I trust the coaches. Those guys, their quality there, the quality, they care. Same thing. They want to develop these kids for their first team. They know their limitations financially and such. So great if they can develop these kids and get whether it's by selling them somewhere else or getting them to be, to play for them. But they're seeing, it is like they're bringing an outsider's perspective, point of view, which they are, and using it to help the talent that we have here. Are there more players that could make that team? Absolutely. For whatever reason, they're going to pick who they're going to pick and go from there. But that was because we had that conversation. In our case, Paolo was fortunate enough to find an amazing group in Arizona. And that's exactly what you're saying. He went out there and he found a group of kids who gave their all. And the coach, because of who he is, was able to keep them together since they were young. We were laughing the other day. He has an outside back, an amazing player. He goes, yep, 4 or 5 years ago, all the parents used to beg me to take him off. Please don't play him in State Cup. Now this kid is just, every academy has won him, but they stayed together. They, even right now because they're connected with Phoenix, with the RSL, that's where their MLX academy is for their group. And some of them are going with them, but they still come back to be with his group because it's something. So, he found a group of competitors, Paolo's first game, he got barked so hard because he didn't go hard for a play. I don't think he's ever heard his name yelled in so many different ways. But he's like, okay. Because it wasn't about him having to be the best. They just wanted him to go all out.
Right, work.
Work, go all out. Don't be afraid. Don't let yourself be. And he started doing that. They opened their arms to him, But so when the opportunity came for him here, the biggest thing that we said to the coaches, it is because of you guys. If it was anybody else, it will not be the case. But it's because of you guys that you're the ones in charge of this. So we're excited for the future of our players in this state as New Mexico United continues to do this because, it's completely different the mentality that we've had from all the groups here.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. For me, if I'm lucky enough to be able to work with these kids and send a kid here, send a kid there, that's my dream. That's really. It's
the same sort of thing. Like for the academies, like if you can send a player, if you can work a player to the point where they're getting to go to an academy and then they stick around, then like you've done your job.
Yeah. Yeah, and you see it right now, like LAFC, one of the newest groups. That's where they've been very successful, able to send kids into their first team. And succeed,
right?
Loan him to the USL division and doing well, and then bring. So that's where you start because that wasn't happening through the years, with all the other MLS groups. So now we're seeing these guys really invest in the future and doing it right, not through U.S. Soccer,
right?
But through what they're doing, and it's like I said, I'm excited. I think the younger kids are really going to see the benefit of what's happening,
right?
With the soccer, the mentality. Like I say, you're bringing all these people from outside. A lot of them staying here. These players are staying here. So you're going to have coaches with a different flavor, a different flair to give that want to give back.
Yeah.
So I see a positive future. I always said it. You're right. If we were to put one team in New Mexico, we could be very successful.
Yeah.
The problem is the egos, everybody, let's have a few in this group, and I get it. It's a business but if we could put egos aside and just say, what? And that's what I'm hoping with the New Mexico United, like they're coaching it. They have a group and their goal is to develop younger teams.
Right.
And go from there. Number 1, 2, for the younger kids here, there's a goal.
Yeah.
A goal that can be done. They don't have to go somewhere else.
Right.
They don't have to leave the state. They can actually try to make that team. If there's other opportunities, great for them. But so.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about like how you ended up getting to the U.S.
Because
obviously you had great success in Guatemala. Like you were on the national team, you signed with the pro team, right?
I was lucky enough to sign when I was 16. So it was what would be considered here before my junior year in high school. Guatemala was going through civil war, late 70s, early 80s, a lot of issues. Guatemala was a neutral country. So we had Honduras had an American base, Cuba's not so far away. So it was at that time where both Russian government, American government were supporting the government and the guerrillas to keep fighting. So bottom line, so they could say, hey, we need somebody.
Right.
We want to be part of you. So you kind of like, be our big brother, protect us type of thing. So there's a lot of civil unrest. There's a lot of, so my parents pretty much were forced to leave the country. They came 2 years before me. My parents left with my sister. How I convinced them to let me stay, I still don't know. because I stayed. I stayed with my grandparents. I lived with my grandparents for my last 2 years of high school, while my parents were already here in the U.S. And it wasn't until after I graduated, I still stayed there for that one more. I stayed there for another year, and I came here to visit them during Christmas time. But I had been we were at a friend's house. Almost everybody there had bodyguards. That's just how their life is in a country like ours. And we're sitting there. It was a female's friends. We're sitting there visiting them. It was the mom. It was two sisters, the mom and the lady that work at the house. So we're there, and the cousin left, and within a few minutes, people coming banging through the door with guns, threw my friend and I to the floor. And I had left my keys, the car keys, on the table. They took him. So nothing happened. They were simple robbers. They were just coming in to rob the house, which again, the problem was what I was saying earlier with the civil unrest. Everybody was armed. So you could hire a policeman, a military after work, because they had no pension. So for $50, you could get anyone kidnapped, killed, or what have you. So everybody had guns, and so we were there. So we're on the floor. Luckily, nothing happened to us, but I got up when everything is gone. They told, don't leave the house. 30 minutes, we're leaving somebody outside. We'll shoot you guys. So we stayed inside. So I called my grandpa. They stole my car. I didn't tell them about anything else. They stole my car. I go outside, but car was there. They just took the keys. The car was still there. So one of those things that you say, okay, if I wouldn't have called them, I would have been okay. Long story short, he contacted my parents and said, look, this is too much. He can't. We're older. We're not able to be all the time with him, and then anything can happen in this country right now.
Yeah.
So when I came to visit my parents for Christmas, I wasn't given a choice. My parents sat me down. You're not going back.
And you went there with the intention.
I went there just to
home.
This was my second Christmas I was coming to visit them. And I never forget when I first went to visit, because like I said, it was my dad who left first. So my mom was actually still there with my two younger sisters through my high school graduation. But then they left to be with him. But when I went to visit them in that Christmas, it was in Florida. Here was my dad, who was a small business, but he was doing well in Guatemala. When I went to Florida, he had a little 1-bedroom apartment. He didn't even have a full bed, mattresses. He had 2 jobs, just trying to provide for our families because he had to leave everything behind.
Right.
But again, I'm a young kid playing professional soccer. I didn't think about anything. I was, if anything, selfish at the time, and just came back to Guatemala and kept playing and kept doing my thing, having fun, enjoying. And it was, as a matter of fact, I was very upset with them when they forced me to stay. And I really would say that's really where the love for coaching came to me, because the first 6 months I was in California, I hated it. It was just, the MLS was not around. I was not a citizen or a resident yet, so I couldn't even try out for any team. So they found me some semi-professional teams. That was fine. But it wasn't until a friend of my uncle who worked at the court translating. He was a Peruvian engineer. And for fun, he went to translate. He coached a high school team. So he told my uncle, hey, tell your nephew. He told him about me. He's like, tell him I'd love to have him. Come over and chat. So I started coaching high school with him. And it was high school girls. And we were actually a very, very successful team. And, from there, I just kept coaching. He coached club teams, so I helped him out. And then I just kept progressing, through that. But the coaching is really what gave me some peace about understanding I got to understand why I had to stay here.
Right.
But for me, here I am, the future is bright. I just finished playing with the U23 national team. I was en route to be with the full team and all of that. So that's what I was saying to you, you having to put your own thoughts aside to understand what's best for your family and everything. That's, kudos to you, because that takes a lot of maturity, because I certainly did not have that back then. Yes, I was younger, it's true.
Yeah.
But I didn't, I did not have that.
There's that, especially when you're like that 18, 19 age, you don't understand as much unless you've gone through something, like how vulnerable you are as a person.
Exactly.
Like being in Guatemala at that age, you might be like, I'm kind of like, you've gone through some stuff, but you're like, I'm young, I'm fine, I'll bounce back. I'm kind of invincible.
Exactly. It's the way it is. I mean, I when we learned to drive, my dad said, okay, you don't just go and park and open the garage door. You drive around the block a couple times. Make sure nobody's in the corner trying to come and take your car. I mean, that's the way we grew up. So all of those things, like I said, you're on the ground with a guy with a gun to your head. I don't care. I practice tomorrow. I have a game,
Right.
As long as I make it out of that, you're okay. You don't think. And it took, like I said, it took me some time. And when because on top of that, the guy helped me say, okay, you're going to help me with the varsity, but I'm giving you the JV. I've never coached before. I never coached women before.
Yeah.
How do you get women to, I never forget that I was accused of being racist too at the end of the season. And the AD said, forget about it. Don't worry about it. But, it was a different way, but I was forced to have some sort of responsibility, and that helped me. That really did help me, because also helped me to understand the sacrifices my parents were going. My sister, my sister came with them, so my sister had to put everything on hold, and then on top of that, she helped take care of my 4-year-old sister at the time. So the sister that's 11 months younger than me, as soon as her school was over, she had to go and pick up my little sister from daycare while I was in Guatemala playing professionally, and then take her to high school because she was playing tennis, and show up late to practice and beg the coach to still, while she had a 4-year-old sitting there.
Right.
I mean, she was a mother, luckily, but anyway, I had to really started thinking about everything my parents were doing, changing everything. I mean, just...
Yeah, you get to that point. It's funny when you get to that like college, post-college area, when you're like, I have to like really start taking responsibility for things. Like it's kind of my turn to like even when you're in college, you're kind of like, oh, I'm not really doing that much. I just have to make sure I'm going to school and getting my homework done. But after that, like as soon as that ends, you're like, what do I do? Mm-hmm. And I'm in a situation where I'm trying to help out the family as well. And not everybody has that. So it takes a little bit longer for them to assume those responsibilities.
No, I mean, I know you don't see it right away, right now, but this is definitely going to help you in the long. It's, you're going to be able to see things in a different way. You're already doing it, but it's, sometimes we're like, well, why? It's not fair. It's not, but life is not fair.
No.
Life is, better than I do, actually, and it's just, I believe there's a plan for everything.
Yeah.
But, you just have to grind it and do it. And I know you probably experienced seeing the joy of your siblings, just by things that you're doing. I know your mother sees it all the time, but it's just, then we get COVID, and then we get all of this, but I always said there is a reason. There's a bigger plan out there for everything. We sort of laugh. Not that it's the fact that we're able to provide some joy through all of this of the kids by soccer, by giving them a place to be. People keep telling me, thank you, and I'm thinking, thank you. Because I'll be just as bad if I just, those months that I was just there doing the Zoom sessions at home with the kids. It was, and we're lucky. We have the mountain as a backyard, and we've been taking advantage of that. But it's still, you get that sense of loss. So being with those kids every day, it is unbelievable.
Yeah, there's so much human connection in just being able to like coach in person, and like I can't even imagine trying to help a player through a Zoom call. Like you can't see them, you can't feel them. It's just a totally different, it's not coaching.
It's not coaching.
Yeah.
It is not coaching. And like you said, exactly what you said a while back, some are going to go to the highest levels, some are going to go high school, college. There's all different levels, but that's not what's important. Mm-hmm. It's the human being, it's that person. And if you don't have that personal connection, it's that's really where this, if any, like I said, I could spend hours and hours taking seminars, doing different webinars or whatever to be a better coach, to understand. But it's really trying to spend time becoming a better person so that you can be a better coach, helper, friend, whatever, to all those kids.
Yeah, that's something that I've noticed is there are some kids on Brendan's team. I'm helping coach Brendan's team now. And there are some kids on that team that have went through things that I went through with coaches who belittle them and aren't really good coaches, but you can tell that like you're not going to get everything out of a player if you don't connect with them.
Exactly.
Like if you're just demanding and tearing down, that player is never going to like give their all for you. Like when you need them to step up and you tell them that, they're not going to understand because you like, there's no connection. You're just like a drill sergeant or someone that like, I mean, I would say they're probably even more connected than what what some of those players have gone through. And I'm getting to the point where I'm thinking more about like how I can connect with them and how I can find a way to have them trust me to like give them information and have them understand that when I'm yelling at them to do something, it's not because I'm like attacking them. Mm-hmm. It's because I want I'm trying to teach them how to see in a different way or how to move in a different way. It's not anything about them as a person, which is what bad coaches do. They like make it about you as a person. And that's just like the wrong way of going about it. Like you're never going to get everything out of a player.
No, it's so true. I mean, again, going back to Todd Bean, I mean, it's just, we have to become experts in child development. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like, it's hard to think about, that's not our field, but it is. I mean, are we going to be experts? No. What he means by being experts is spend time becoming better at that, so that you can understand too that if you don't have the answer, try to guide them into the right place with the right people, and But like you say, for you, we were saying it's so simple, and it's just understanding this is not going to work with them. I got to try something different, and the first thing I got to try is to connect with them. I mean, it's. I got into the point now that those that are able to connect the best, then I know, okay, now I can push them harder.
Yeah,
now
exactly.
I can go harder with them because and they understand now that it's not personal.
Yeah,
that there's a reason why they're coaches demanding this or but it's and then I'm like,
at that point it gets to coaching.
Yeah, because I said to them, you're telling me this is what you want to do. Mm-hmm. You're telling me. But you're not doing this and these things in order to, so that's where I'm confused. And then you get them to start thinking and they're like, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
So it's not about that. Because really right now, even when I get upset with any player, when it has nothing to do with a good pass, a good play, it is just the mental effort, the willingness to try something different, something new, and they're like, so you're okay if the other day, somebody came over, you complimented that kid like crazy. He was going all out.
Right.
He kept doing the wrong thing over and over and over, but he was going all out.
Yeah.
And he's a kid that struggles with confidence. Mm-hmm. By me actually, great job, keep doing. All of a sudden, he started doing more and taking. I mean, this is a kid that can be super talented, but can't do this. Anything, everything is very negative. And also by me, instead of fighting him or telling him, no, stop talking like that, be more positive, it was just like, great effort. I love it. Keep doing that, and it was very interesting to see him continue and also start having some success because of it. And it wasn't during that day. It took us 3 practices, but before he will disappear, because I'm bad. Oh, I'm horrible. And now also yesterday, he was like, that was fun.
Right.
That's all I said to him at the end. It was fun watching you.
Yeah.
He looked at me like, but as a kid, I've tried everything. Your language is too negative, and it's like, and that's what I said, you have to learn, so I spending a lot of time learning from this guy called Trevor Mowat, who's just, long story short, he's the Russell Wilson's personal mental coach. I mean, he's unbelievable. He has a great book called It Takes What It Takes. And he's pretty much, his biggest thing is neutrality. The past is real, mm-hmm. but it doesn't predict your future.
Right.
Changing, everybody tells you, think positive, be positive. What if I can't do that right now? Right? I mean, there's situations in life where you cannot understand what is there to be positive about right now.
Yeah.
So he goes, no, it's about finding that neutral.
Mm-hmm.
Finding that neutral where you can, calm down a little bit and then able to see your different routes that you can take. And you know, it's
that's huge in soccer because in soccer, if you get those really high highs, like there's often times a really low that comes right after it. Like so many times I've seen like a really good goal scored and everyone's like celebrating the goal. And then we start playing again. The other team's right there. They score again. And then you're like, well, what?
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, Bill Beswick, one of the top sports psychologists, he had with the English U20, I think it was, he worked with those guys on that. Okay, guys, for the next X amount of minutes, 5 minutes or something like that, get him in that mind that when they scored, they had to certain keywords to stay in that moment to not give up a goal. Because he said all the studies they done, when you scored this amount of minutes, it's very easy that the other team can score because you're so in such a high that you forget the little things, you know. So he got him to start worrying about concentrate on the little things to prevent from doing that.
Right.
You know, but you're right. I mean, there's so and you know, and again we go back to here's this guy that I was saying, Trevor is one of the top guys. I mean, he really he's done it all. And he says to everyone, sure, I work with Russell Wilson, but I'm telling you, I learned more from that guy than he can learn from me. You know, here's one of the best guys in the business saying that how much he's learning from someone that he's working with, that gets paid for to work with. You know, and that's where when you see as coaches, when you think you know it all and you have all the answers, we don't have the answers. We know, so I mean, whatever those little guys are going to teach me in a couple hours, you know, going to put me through it's going to be different than it was yesterday.
Yeah.
You know, and that's, you know, for me, when I see a kid do something amazing and they're not doing it again, before I'd be like, and now I'm like, okay, how did he do that?
Right.
Did I have anything to do with that? And if I did, can I replicate that? You know, and even if you try to do that, I might not work on this the next day. You know, so you have to find a complete, and I've learned too, some of the best ways to do it is the freedom.
Yeah. I think that especially with soccer, just being able to like go out and mess around and play, you like, it drops the pressure of just like a high-end like training session. Mm-hmm. Like if you're just going out to play, you feel confident on the ball, you're just messing around, you're not worried about mistakes. And really in training, that's where you want your players to not be worried about mistakes. You want them to be trying new things and pushing new things.
It's just the youth level.
Yeah.
I mean, really, the professionals do it, right? But at the youth level, it's so critical. Mm-hmm. You know, it's so critical. I mean, no, you see it right now at the professional level, the amount of big-time players that are coaching. And they're not coaches. They're not great coaches, really. Zidane is not a great coach. He's not going to win a game because of his X's and the O's, but he's had success because of those relationships.
Yeah.
He loves the game, you know, so he's still out there passing the ball with them, playing with them as much as, you know, little things, you know. So you see it at that highest level, having these greatest guys, their success through giving their experience back, sharing what they learned in the locker room, sharing how they solve a problem when they were under pressure in a game, when they felt bad, when they had a bad family situation, but they still had to show up to work because regardless, it's a game, but it's still their work,
right?
You know, and so I think that's I mean, you see in the Premier League right now, you see some of these coaches that have been there forever, and their teams are very up and down, and then you see these younger coaches who just finished playing, coaching the teams, and there's such a complete different personality to the team, you know, and I think it's the same thing for these young guys. I mean, when we think that we're just coaches and all we're going to do is give you just like a teacher that just sits there and there's no, but when you open up the roads of discussion, when you become available to them and become involved with them, you know, it's amazing how you see those kids trying things.
Yeah.
You know? I even make a point, I joke around with the kids, I made that mistake on purpose. When it wasn't that, the little kid was probably better than me by now, you know, but I'm trying to let them know, hey, here I'm trying really hard. Look, I'm sweating, playing with you guys, and I made a mistake.
Yeah.
But I made a mistake trying something fun. Mm-hmm. So they're like, I'll try something fun. Then it's okay if I make a mistake, you know. And
just teaching them that it's all right to mess up.
Yeah, I mean, because I tell you, that's been the biggest thing with that younger group. They spend so much time arguing with each other. But you weren't doing it. And I go, guys, relax. But it's what they've heard.
Yeah.
Even though as young as they are, that's what they've heard from their coaches, maybe parents or whatever, you know. And they're, you know, judging other people instead of just playing.
Right.
Instead of just, you know, and And so that's really been the biggest thing, trying to get them to just do your thing and not judge, not judge themselves, not judge the others, just be, and it's, when they do that, it's amazing.
Yeah.
But again, even though as young as they are, because what are they, 7, 8, maybe 9-year-olds, they already have that's some negative build them there through some of those coaches that have been barking at them or coaching them play by play. It's really, so it's, you really have to start with the really young ones and just let them try things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so important. I mean, I never had the confidence to like try new things in training and in soccer. It was always so hard for me because I was worried about making the mistake. And it's not until recently, like when I've started thinking about what I want to achieve outside of soccer, that I've understood that like making mistakes is going to be part of it no matter what. Like if I'm trying to build businesses or something, inevitably there's going to be a situation where I make a mistake. And I have to take those as like learning points. And that's another reason why I started this podcast, was because I want to learn from other people's area, like where they've made mistakes, where they've succeeded, so that I don't have to necessarily make all of the mistakes. A little selfish.
No, but that's okay. You're learning, like I said, we all learn from each other. Here I am sitting here, I'm learning from you, and I think that's critical. I mean, and then you just got to take what John Wooden used to say: make a mistake, no problem. Make the same mistake again, no problem. You make the same mistake 3 times, we have a problem.
Right, exactly.
He used other words, but we have a problem.
Yeah.
He's like the nicest person ever to be on this planet, probably. But he wasn't, But that, you have to. I think the biggest issue is that we have teachers, parents, coaches that tell us to make mistakes, but the moment we do, they're all over us.
Yeah.
So you find that you're like, but they told me now, but they're barking at me, or they're benching me, or, so and that happens because, again, you read it, it's in books. So every coach now says, I make mistakes. But really, how many of those really, really stick to it and let you make the mistake? Like the other thing I've learned, and it's taken me years, instead of me giving them the answer, if I think I have the answer of what mistake, I try to get them to understand the mistake they made.
Right.
And it's been doing that has been so much more successful than me giving them the answer, because they're like, they have to think. And many times and I've taken back from what Wooden said, because I have to let them make the mistake multiple times, because it took them multiple times to understand what was it that was going on.
Yeah. That's something in soccer. There's like the mistakes on the field where you're not paying attention to like where you're supposed to be or the technical skills. The only place, and I know most coaches say this, is like the one thing that you can control time in and time again is like your work rate. Mm-hmm. And you can tell the players that understand that are just going to grow much quicker. Yeah. Like the other kids can grow, but they're not putting it all in. So they're not understanding it. They're struggling to grow because they think that they can just put like a half measure in, when the work rate is, I think the work rate is the most important thing in soccer.
It is. And like you said, that is, you control that.
Mm-hmm.
You control that. And that you can have a bad game, but you can control your effort. You can still, give it. I mean, we were talking about the goal that Newcastle gave up against Leeds the other day. And actually, Paolo and I just talked about it for about 15 minutes, stopping and going. But it was a simple play. The guy receives the ball in midfield, had options to play the ball back. He held it, he loses it at midfield, and then he starts jogging back. And as it turns out to be, the player that he could have been is the one shooting. And then he still got in the box because there's some rebounds. And the guy it wasn't a hard shot. He's bending the shot. And this same player that had lost the ball, that jogged back, turned his back, and the ball goes right through him. I mean, all of what he did right there, he could have controlled.
Yeah.
Had nothing to do with somebody being faster, better. It was just, so fine, he made the one mistake, but then 2 mistakes by jogging back. And then even because like turning the body, I mean, I said, I don't know. I'm lazy. Not those guys. I'm like thinking, if I'm him, if I'm that coach, that guy doesn't play again.
Yeah.
And Paul, he's a big time player. Well, obviously his character, because we talk about about the 3 C's, cognition, how smart you are, right? Competence, but then character. And those three, it's like pretty much they say, you want to be successful at anything, you need those three.
Yeah.
Because if you have two out of the three, like you said, how many people do we know that have the tools to do it? They're that good, they're competent.
Right.
But they're not very smart.
Yeah.
Or they'll have no character.
Right.
They'll cut corners, so you're building this table, even though you know how to do it, you don't, you cut a corner there, whatever, you
Right.
know. So anyway, but it's so important. It's so, but you have to learn from your mistakes. You have to find a way to teach them how to learn from their mistakes. You have to guide. I mean, the little kids, they have no idea they made a mistake.
Yeah.
They really, that's why I said to you, if you don't tell them he did that, he won't know.
Yeah.
So let them be,
Yeah, that's something that I struggle with Lachlan is trying to just let him play. And I've gotten much better at it, just letting him play rather than trying to coach him 100% of the time. And then when he comes off, giving him 1 point to work on for the next thing. But I mean, it was a family thing, just barking. We were always talkative and loud, and it's a very sports thing, I'm sure, but soccer specifically, coaches, parents love to try and coach from the sideline.
yeah. It's, and that's everyone. I mean, like I said, we are, parents too, and we see that. We're like, it's like, even now with Paolo, not that I'm not his coach, I'll be driving back from the game and I'll biting my lip not to say, until he mentions something, will I start, then I will start going, I will even break down his games. And I have notes and notes and notes unless he asks me something. But it was hard for me. It was hard for me not to.
Right.
Hey, you're doing well, but if you were to do this and da, so I had to just, but I told him, hey, by the way, I do have a book here. If you ever want to, we can talk about this. And
yeah.
That. But it is difficult when you're competitive, when you are, especially if you see they have some tools, you think you're helping, but it's, it would not be a problem if coaches allowed these kids to go.
Yeah.
Because then you say, hey, my family, well, we're strong, this is the way we are, whatever. But the problem is, when the coaches are just play by play and, then just, you have to say, no, Lachlan is teaching me a lot. Lachlan is because I see the tools that he has. I see what he can do, But in his, like you're saying, he's telling those stories and the times, not that he doesn't care. In this moment, he's a coach. Mm-hmm. In this moment, he's a friend. In this moment, he's a teammate. In this moment, he's a player, So it's like, but when it comes together, it's just so much fun to see.
Yeah.
And what I've tried to do is just kind of enjoy those moments.
Yeah.
And just kind of be. I mean, I even, with that group, I started playing 3-team games with them just so that instead of them barking at each other or saying, you stay if you win. If you get scored, you have to come off. So they have to start thinking, okay, why did we get scored? Right. And of course, at the beginning, it's because you didn't do that or this. So trying to get them, no, don't do it. Just think about what. Think quickly because you're going to go back in. Right. You want to stay there. So they're starting to put their time into working together or doing it all yourself, whatever, whichever way comes to their head at that moment. But it's been interesting. Just again, a change of what we were doing to a simple game, a game that we love anyway, but is allowing them a little more freedom and for them to start solving problems. Because at the beginning, I'm on the worst team. This girl can't play or whatever. But little by little, it's like, okay, me saying that is not keeping me on the field any longer.
Right.
Coach is not switching teams. So it's being interesting to see them finding ways. And you're starting to see more parity on the groups, no matter who's with whom.
Right.
Because they're not that it's perfect. It's not. But. They're enjoying playing, so they want to keep playing.
Yeah, that's great. That's the best part is when they want to just keep playing.
It's and we're lucky because even right now we got some of the older kids that come. They're supposed to be 3:45 to 5, but they stay there until they have to go.
They're there for a long time.
So therefore, the little ones are training when they see Paolo and some of those other guys. And I'm not coaching them anymore because I'm with the little ones. Mm-hmm. So they're still having fun. They're still playing. They're still going hard, So the kids are like, and then you see the other group coming in, the Kaya group that comes in for later.
Yeah.
So that environment is really, that's everything.
Yeah, having the different environments, like there's the dirt field, and then there's the turf, and then the tech ball table, like having all those different elements out there just like creates a space where you're just wanting to play. Like you're wanting to do something the whole time.
It's, the little ones saw you guys play, so it was so funny. And I don't know what day it was, but one of the little kids, you could see he was in the car waiting, and as soon as all you guys left the table, got out of the car, goes out, and Lucy, come over, and the little ones start playing, and it was just like, they knew their place. They were not, the olders were gonna be there until, but I was like, and they've been using it every day there. They'll be staying there.
Lachlan said he was trying to stay and play on the kickball table last night.
I told him that's what is there.
Yeah.
We'll set it up there all the time for you guys. It's just.
If you guys get a tech ball league going, that'd be super fun.
Well, we want to, like I said, the owner of the place already wants to buy another one. I mean, but like I said, for us, we just want to be able to provide those tournaments and then have the tech ball tables set up just so that kids can play and have fun.
Right.
And same thing right now, practice, or like you're saying, how do you get them to want to stay longer? Whether just by, number one, allowing them, and then changing the environment, different things.
Yeah.
And I mean, that tech ball table, and we're lucky, again, the people that we work with. Because, what was a Saturday, some of the parents dropped their kids off and then they drove to our house to go and grab it. And I wasn't even there to help them. And then
really?
They had to take it through put it over, call somebody. They had to call another friend. And when all of a sudden I see them coming back with the table, I'm like, great.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys have really created like a great environment and a great community, really, more than anything. Is like you guys have such a good community of people that want to help out. It's like such a grassroots like training area that like all the parents, all the family, like people are there all the time wanting to like help fix things up, or just like hang out and talk and play. And it's just such a great environment. And I was talking to Kid about this on Tuesday or whenever we did ours, but like I have an idea for something that I want to create. And I think that you and Kit would be like the perfect people to like talk to about it and like implement into it. But I forgot to talk to her about it after. So we'll have to talk about it soon. Because I think it's something that could be really big in New Mexico and other places if we wanted to, which would be fun.
No, it's great. No, we'd love to help out in any way we can. It's no, you're right though. That's really what has been the best, the most fun. I enjoy being around with the group.
Mm-hmm.
The kids, but the parents, just they know I'm a little bit out there sometimes or what have you, but it's but it's a great group. Everybody's there to help each other out. I mean, like I said, through this COVID, we've been able to take the kayak group out of town and play, and we play some of the best groups. Some groups that have not stopped, so they're playing. We only take a third of the team. The results have not been pretty.
Right.
But you know what, though? It doesn't matter to them.
Yeah.
Just seeing the joy of their kids playing. They're, like you said, they're all there supporting. What else can we do? How can we help? And that's when it's, that's when you see, okay, we're in the right path.
Yeah.
We just got to keep.
You've gained the trust of the community.
But that's our goal, So that's what we keep working towards, just.
It's great. I got to get out of here to go pick up Lachlan. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Jorge, for coming on. It's been a great podcast, and we'll have to do another one.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.